Radio.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Nice to see everybody. Thank you for joining us at Answers from the Universe and the Andronicus transmissions. And over here at JP, and having some discussions. We also have our guest today in the second hour is Viking, and he has some important information to share with you all today. We also have some interesting insights today, but we'll start off by saying hello, and I wanted to mention that we had a great time last week. The second hour, we had our tea time, and it was a nice little break for everybody, and we all had fun. How are you, JP?
I'm back to my coffee.
You're back to your coffee. You said you were back to yourself and coming back to yourself and returning to yourself.
Yeah, returning to myself.
You sound like a time traveler. You say that.
It's funny. I've just been listening to Cliff High talking to Randy Morgans. Have you heard that interview?
No, I haven't.
Very interesting. Talking about time and the nature of time and time travel and space travel and all of that stuff. So, it's all about where your consciousness is sitting, really, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it was funny because...
Being a space and time traveler yourself.
Yeah. You talk to people that... I had a discussion with someone about dementia. And they say when you go into dementia, it is determined by how nice or bad you were as a child. And I guess because you revert back to that stage, and whatever mischief you might have gotten into sort of comes back, or moodiness, and if you were a nice person, your dementia might, be less, volatile. But a state of mind also in the stage of the afterlife is also critical for people. If you're in a good state of mind, then you've come to a place of peace, then you're more likely to travel well into the afterlife, as opposed to those that are very angry and unenlightened and unawake. And, as a medium, you discover some very, very unhappy spirits that got stuck because of their state of mind. It's good to work on those areas while you're here. And also, if you can't experience happiness here, you're not going to be able to experience happiness anywhere, because it's everything's all relative to where you're at the present moment. And no judgment. No. Right? But it's true, isn't it?
It's wherever you are, you take yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What was the... Yeah, wherever you go, you take you with you. So, as we create our reality, if you have twisted paranoid reality in one place, you go to another, it's not going to change. The faces may change, but the feelings are going to be the same. It's all about the feelings for me. It's all like same feeling, different story.
Well, that's I think that's where we're at right now today, because that actually comes up on one of the transmissions.
Oh no, I haven't done it
It's
yet,
about feelings and emotions. You have to stop predicting this stuff, and you haven't even read through the transmission, and you seem to know exactly where it's headed.
It's the zeitgeist. It's a really interesting phenomenon. I've had it a lot, particularly in the times that I've lived in Findhorn, is that I would say something and people would say, "Oh, 3 people said that to me today." It's not all right. Maybe, it's what needs to be said. I personally, I hate repeating myself, but there you go.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
It's always nice to be spontaneous and say something different every time, because I get bored by my own presentation. What do you think? I've been doing this for 7 years, and I heard a track. I heard a show from a few years ago, and I realized I've been saying it over and over again, and I've been saying the same thing. So it's like I've said it all. That's why I can't really speak much on radio shows anymore, because I've already said all the things that I was supposed to say, I think. Unless they're new, but here, these things are interesting and fresh and new. The Andronicus transmissions are always fun for me.
They are. I mean, it does cover topics that have already been discussed, but it has their own reflection on it and an angle that, maybe a perspective from off-world that we hadn't considered. Their observation of us is different than our own observation of us. So there's always room to learn, and also, you see something like an anomaly, and they have a deeper explanation for it. And I had someone say to me, well, I understand that happened, but it's interesting to hear the story behind it. And they were laughing, because, I get the explanations, and whether, a person wants to receive it or not, they do listen, because, there's not many others that have, a story behind the story, and only because I can hear them that I seem to kind of know what it is. But, it's interesting. And as far as regarding, repeating things, I mean, it can be interpreted as redundancy, right? I mean, I've had people say, well, you've said that before, it's kind of redundant. But, there's also another thing about sometimes we need things repeated until we get it. And, we get stuck in certain areas. And so maybe you needed to say all those, the things that you were saying over and over again. And just to get everyone caught up, because people have come in and out in different phases, right? And so some get it and others are new, and they have to kind of go back to square one to kind of get them caught up. And I've had people say, I listened to your Andronicus transmissions, and maybe it was like in the 50s or 60s of the transmission number 50 or 60 or higher. And then they would go all the way back to the beginning and to catch up. So, they didn't know the backstory to some of this stuff. And then when they started to catch up with the backstory, then they're like, oh, now I understand what happened. And wow, hasn't Meetis changed? Meetis has kind of, got into his little nasty stage and all this other stuff. So, and a few of them did. A few of them turned out to be rather nice, much later. Even Rhodan was kind of really tough in the beginning.
Yeah, he was like, almost an android sort of, he was very, Rhodan was very cruel not cruel, but cool, with Andronicus. He wasn't impressed much. And, so I suppose he from our perspective, having kind of gotten used to Andronicus, to find somebody who criticizes him like the way that Rhodan did. He didn't come in well, but he's like everybody's lovely daddy or uncle or something now.
Yeah,
or grandfather, wise grandfather.
Right, and of course, when people started seeing him as Odin, they realized, there's something about Odin that is very, very recognizable, especially to certain parts of the world. He's kind of there, a strength, a powerful being that was there as a protector and guide. And so you could see Rhodan in that role very easily. Whereas Andronicus, it's funny because he'll go from one spectrum to the next. As far as, he's been in control and, you just pick up a lot of different things from it. But, anyhow, a lot of the stuff's coming through and there's some now recognizable names that actually come up in the transmissions today. Also for some people. I don't know if this is right or wrong to mention certain people that were a celebrity, but on occasion they come up. And, we're just going through and learning some of the things that we've learned. But this thing with Tom Petty that came up, I started getting into some research about Tom Petty. At least reviewing some of his music. And what's interesting is I don't know if you remember the meme that we had, the Black Dahlia meme, that that I shared with everybody early on, and Meetis says it. He actually says it in the transmission. And in the meme, it says, no more Black Dahlia, no more twice dead, once before, but all the venom shall kill you no more. And that was from Meetis. Now, Tom Petty died, and then he was said he was alive, and then he died again, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, there was a certain
twice.
certain Heisenberg uncertainty about him all.
Right.
Yeah. So
there was apparently died twice, similar to this Meetis quote here.
Yeah.
Right? Then, I start looking through, listening to his videos, and there's one that he has that looks like it's time travel. And the day, let's see if I can get the right song for that. If a person wants to look at the video. So we're going to maybe play some of that music later on. Let's see. And I think it is...
Wizard from the Universe says, I think Meetis looks a bit like Tom Petty. He's got the sort of ever young quality that these immortals share.
Yeah, remember we talked about, the Meetis talks about the Eliza Lemon Tree last week, and this song that I have here, Mary Jane's Last Dance, I think it's a reference to missing his friends. Friends or people that had died. It's a little bit morbid, the video, but it's actually, a carcass. But let's see, if the time traveler one, you got lucky, and you actually see him in a spacecraft.
All right. So what's that song
time
called?
Travel device. You got lucky.
You got lucky. Okay. So I'm just going to Mary Jane here to download it so we can play it in the show.
Yep.
So
you got lucky. We got that one. There's also
Mary Jane.
We had the Tea Party, the day that we find the day that I find out that he passed, and on the show we mention it, and he did the video or the song "Don't Come Around Here No More," I believe, and that is all about Alice in Wonderland, the Tea Party. Lots of synchronicities in this.
More of that zeitgeist. It's whirling around us.
Yep.
Quite interesting. What was that last one called? I Got Lucky.
I Got Lucky.
Yeah.
And I actually like Don't Come Around Here No More, which is kind of fun. The time travel one, you got lucky.
Yeah.
In the famous red velvet jacket that Meetis talks about wearing all the time, you can see Tom Petty wearing that, and I Won't Back Down. The ruffled shirt he does in one of his videos. I was just like looking through, and I'm like, I always like these songs because I grew up listening to you, Tom Petty, and started to see all these synchronicities. Didn't see him when he died, which usually I see these beings when they die, so, last piece of what I had was in my book, I have a picture of Rupert the Time Traveler, my book Macabre, Short Stories and Poems from the Other Side, that was published in 2011. Someone appeared to me by the name of Rupert, who was a time traveler, who I drew and looked distinctly like Tom Petty when I look back at it.
So do you think he's just, just done what Meetis does? Just kind of disappears? Or,
he died at the age of 66.
66. Clickety-click. Yeah. The fact that I didn't see him doesn't mean that
it's normal for me to see, especially some of these celebrities. I saw a lot of them when they passed. But I did connect with him, but I don't believe he was passed over. I believe he is in another dimension.
Dimensions. Senile dimensions.
And he did look at me with a looking glass in front of him.
All right.
So, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. I mean, people have said that he channels his music. He would, just spontaneously just start singing stuff. I don't know if, I think I have a picture somewhere that I put it in a chat room of, I think I might have it here that I can give it to you. Is, a picture that I did with, the Rupert picture. Let's see if I can find that too. Maybe when we play, why don't we play one of the songs? Which one do you want to play?
Well, the one that's going in my head at the moment is Free Falling.
Yeah.
So, if I may,
yes.
If I can get it. Where is it? Where's it gone? Free Falling. Open container folder. Oh, it's in the downloads folder. All right, yes. Uh-huh. There we go.
And I'm sending you that picture of Rupert to put into the chat room.
Okay, so everybody, enjoy some Free Falling. Okay, here we go. Now we're back. There was Tom Petty with Free Falling. So I'm just uploading your image of Rupert, the time traveler. Hang on. That's all where my mouse is. My computer's acting
Does it sound like
strangely.
we have, I was going to say that maybe it's the downloads or something, but does it sound like the connection's not well? Does it sound okay on your end?
Yeah, you sound absolutely clean to me.
Okay, good. I wanted to get, add something about that song, which it could be a complete coincidence. It could be, mean absolutely nothing at all, but, the whole thing, she's a good girl, crazy about, and loves Jesus, crazy about Elvis. When I was young in high school, I got very much into Christianity, went off to Bible school, and married someone that was an Elvis impersonator. And I thought, when I was listening to that song, I'm like, this is kind of weird. I don't know, just another piece of trivia, maybe another breadcrumb of the connection to Meetis, but you never know. Anyhow. So there it is. In the chat room, you'll see there's a picture of Rupert, the time traveler, who, from my interpretation, when I saw him, that's what he looked like, and that was around 2010 or so. Of course, the book was then published around 2011. And I had no idea the name of Meetis, because of course they take on different names. But at that time, that's what he was calling himself, was Rupert. And it's in the book Macabre, Short Stories and Poems from the Other Side, and one of the many stories that I got that were channeled in. Similar to what I'm doing now. But this is a much earlier version of when I was doing it. Anyhow, and you can get that book online through Amazon.com if people are interested in it, along with many of the other books that I have. The Seer, Violets in the Grass, which has other information that I brought in years ago, around 2011, 2012. And I had the 3 children's books, Green Stories for Green Children, book 1 and 2, and Green Stories for Green Cities. So, just to let people know, some people don't realize that I had some books there with information also. And we are working on the Andronicus book as well. So, anyhow, in back, Kelly, so we haven't done the transmissions yet. JP?
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Yes, everything's taking so long to do today to turn off the speakers. There we go. That's better. So shall we, I mean, we've only got a few transmissions today, so we'll probably be able to fit it into the 35 minutes for the rest of the hour. As long as I can find my mouse. There we go. Okay, take that over here. So I have to take it over here so I can, have it full on the screen here. And there we go. Right. So, who first?
Well, since it's Andronicus' show, let's start with Andronicus. I observed Andronicus in a room. It was all white. But the white was not a natural white, like here with light bulbs, but almost a glowing light. More like a light source or a glowing organism as a sun. Inside there were tables or different plant species, mostly flowers. He called it the flora chambers.
The flowers bring a certain type of life to the planet. Each one is given a harmonic of energy of life force and color aura, which is all a part of ancient technology. When you begin to extract the flowers from the planet, you extract the very core essence of life.
Are you saying that the God source is like a plant? Because as you were speaking, I could see that the many petals of openings like that of a rose or other complex flowering plant, with the many repetitions or swirls of replications.
That is where they originally got the term flower of life. The plant is a print of forever moving energy flow that, if stopped at various points, could appear as many species of flowers. But of course it's only a representation of a forever moving light sound frequency, color and absorption of light and output of light simultaneously occurring. Some of you imagine that the God source is a machine. Anything of this nature is from a false paradigm or timeline that is choosing to be devoid of the true divine source. What we do in this lab is take a moment or snapshot, as you see it, of energy and create a flower. A proverbial essence of our divine source of light. We are all living and breathing essences of this truth. So many of you imagine plants to be nothing more than the core and the design that was fabricated to color our hollow world. Many civilizations imagine that we came from animals, came from insects, came from amphibians or minute organisms, or just pure energy. But there is so much more to it. You will see in time. I often come here when I want to be alone, to be healed in my heart and my soul and my core of thinking. A small snippet of life that exists in one flower can erase the pains of 1,000 years, if I so will it to do so.
So are you saying that the Bach essences and flower essences and essential oils are critical for our well-being? Also, having plants in our garden with flowers, would they help us to heal certain maladies, traumas, angers, emotional imbalances, according to what you're saying?
Well, that's only a part of what they can do. The healthiest of civilizations embrace the flowers, for they can also heal the air quality and environment and can filter out toxins, neutralize the quantum fields that are damaged by returning restored data where molecules are broken. You are beginning to learn now. If you have an intention to restore the balance of the earth, start adding flowers to the locations where there is stress. I must go now. I'm glad that you are receptive to learning and growing outside of what you were originally taught. You've heard of the term flower power, but I originally said the power is in the flower. Ah, very interesting.
Yeah. And you never know what kind of conversation is going to come up. But when I saw him there, I think he was deliberately there trying to teach me something. And I knew about the flower essences. I'm sure a lot of people know about them. But when the way he described it is almost, that's how they get the ideas of this, how these flowers form. They're actually just like a quick snapshot of this ever-flowing energy source, this life flow God source energy that looks like this moving, ever-flowing energy, but if slowed down, it would look like petals of a flower.
Mm. Yeah, I imagine like when you were talking that watching a time-lapse photograph of a rose unfolding from this tiny bud into layer, petal after petal after petal, just pouring out from the center in this toroidal pattern. Back to that, toroidal vortexes as well. So yeah, fascinating, absolutely
fascinating.
There we go. Definitely deserved a Spock.
Well, there's a portion in here that talks about how it moves. On the various points could appear as many species of flowers, but of course it's only a representation of a forever moving light sound, frequency, color, and absorption of light and output of light simultaneously occurring. So all this type of moving and flowing in and out at the same time, creating this varying imagery, I guess. But yeah, I definitely saw a rose as part of it, but there was so much more going on too.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, where to? Who to now? Andronicus's other experience of himself?
I was thinking that, and then I'm like questioning whether we should go there. Let me just. We're going to jump over to Rhodan next.
He's wanting to come through. Okay.
Yeah.
As you remember, we had stormed the gates of Certopia, and you will see that another name for Certopia is Ceres. Our names for these planets are not the same as yours. Humanity has the corrupted version of many of the original names of the solar system and more. It is more of a degradation or lack of understanding of phonetic sounds and language interpretation. Names have power, and powerful beings are associated with names. Many use symbols to avoid the compromise with their power and meaning, where their symbol retains its universal interpretation with clarity. Certopia, or the term utopia, is to denote a place of paradise. Ceres is also known as a type of minor planet in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The replicants took the object and turned it into what you perceive to be the Dyson sphere, creating worlds within worlds. The alternate species not having permanent homes have adapted to replication on occasion to hide and form new species to sustain their longevity as a species. One of which was viewed by your planet and their attempt to further influence humanity. Their inner technology was projected onto your planet. What appeared to be black goo leaked like ink on paper upon your planet. This then further revealed a shield of technology preventing humans from connecting to the planet and having them connect directly to this replicant Ceres. It is quite complex, but can be seen from the original Ceres planet in a time where we noted the magnificence of this planet before it got lost in the asteroid field and pummeled into submission. Many species habited that space that further formed alliances and agendas that has also been removed. Others in the past have done the same with the concept of repurposing the planet in replicant quality in a form that you know as a Dyson sphere. A self-sustaining atmosphere for the less desirable species in the galaxy. Never underestimate the intelligence of what you may perceive as a subspecies. Some have brilliant abilities and spectra of insight that were given to them long before their corruption and degradation of aptitude. We would like to bring back Ceres and Selene to a more purified status and vibratory inclusion. This is relative to the well-being of all species residing on your planet and other planets nearby. Our search continues and discoveries are innumerable. Much peace to all, and may there be harmony and wonderment on the plains of all existence. So, have they got rid of black goo?
They got rid of the black goo that was brought in here from this planet. I saw the planet, and it looked like it had some kind of tech inside of it, where I was trying to explain to people that it looked like, what do they use? Those beams, those metal beams that go across.
Girders.
Like, to hold a house.
A girder?
Intact, yeah, and they had that, but it was like in L shapes and, kind of, and you could almost sort of see through the points where, there was like openings inside of it, which reminded me of a Dyson sphere, how it's kind of jagged and has these shapes to it that, kind of reveal like a technology within it, based on a technology rather than an organic substance on the interior like we have on the Earth.
So it's a spaceship that surrounds a planet or a planetary body or something.
Yeah, and I think they even have like an inner light source as well, so it's sort of a replication of like an inner world.
And, some people might say that our planet is inside such a thing, and that the moon and the stars are just projections, but, that's not my feeling.
It's not my feeling either, but I could see how that could be perceived, because if we have stepped into one of these realities, I guess, that those things do exist. A lot of the ideas and perceptions that people have, I don't necessarily rule out. I know that they've seen them. And I don't think that they're distorted in their view. I know that there's, you can go back to Galileo or that whole thing of whether the Earth is flat and, the Earth is round. And we're not talking about the flat Earth theory, but, the earlier time in history where people just thought you go off into the ocean and you drop off into nothing. And so, that's a perception. But then there are those that have been off-world, have been in other civilizations, so it's a memory of different existences, and it's very possible that some of them have lived in these existences, within a space that looks like a Dyson sphere. So maybe they were one of those species that were degrading, and they had to find another planet, and so this was fabricated or replicated. They called them replicants.
So this is a planetary replicant. Is that right?
Yes.
Not people replicants like in Blade Runner. Interesting.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows if maybe that's where they...
Well, beings are beings, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's a matter of scale.
I didn't think of that. Yeah. But they took the planet and then they made a copy of it. And then they transformed it with tech to be self-sustaining. Yeah, that's what I said. But so let me explain the thought a little so people understand what happened. I had a clear vision of it, and for some reason it was on my left side. I could see it, by the moon. And previous to that, a friend of mine said that they saw two moons. Or, two planets that look like moons. So it was like two moons there, and one of them was this replicated one. And then I saw it connect to the Earth, and then it spread this black ink-like substance all over the Earth. And then when the black ink receded, it was the same tech that covered the whole planet, which then created a floor that was preventing humans from connecting into the Earth, but rather connecting into their tech. And that was upsetting to me when I saw that. And it felt like that they had in some ways hijacked us, or
so they hijacked the ground?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And which reminds me of how these kids are in these younger generations where they're, staying inside and everything's video games and I remember I used to have to really try to get my son to go out and play outside. It was a struggle. He just didn't feel connected to the Earth as we were when we were younger. So I don't know when this happened. Some people said something like this already happened and they resolved it and I backstepped, but it's possible, and it's possible that it happened more than once, that it was removed and then it happened again. So, it was an uncomfortable thing to look at, but I believe they removed it again. So hopefully we can have a reconnection to the Earth.
So, shall we move forward in time?
Yes. And go to John.
You have been in contact with Jacques Capon lately. I sent him back in 4433 to integrate into your reality. He was one of the scientists here at the lab and had lost one of his wives. As a traveller, he has had a great deal of sorrow and a few mishaps during his journeys. I find that he is quite kind and compassionate to others, as well as a curiosity of life and language, and very similar to me in some ways. He has a fondness for females as well, and can become quite enamoured by them to a fault in some ways. I warned him that this could be a weakness if he so entangled with the wrong one. I know what you're thinking. I am not in the position to give such advice, but I do realize a lot over time. I sent Jacques back in time over a mission to find you and the others. He discovers a malady that he cannot cure within himself. We trace it back to a toxin that was in him related to the species from Sector Draco. It was the venom that was quite toxic. You were also affected by the venom of the Dracos, as it remains dormant and is persistent in the blood. Though not a contagion, it is a repeated incident of toxin that emerges in a state of illness. In our timeline, Jacques becomes quite ill, as well as his ancestor, whom you are in contact with. Together, you have been searching for the answers to prevent contamination to the genetic ancestral line, as well as the future of you and his family, of your and his family. All those in contact with the Draco species and toxic must be purged of the venom as it persists and is not one to disappear on its own. The elimination of the species is necessary to return back to our normal state. The contamination of this species has rendered many other species to spoil. This is the rotten fruit you have been seeing. You see the result of the long-term contamination, but not be confused with a cancer or other illness known to mankind. Rather, it is an etheric illness affecting the field. It is not contagious to others, but persistent to the genetic carrier DNA. Thus, the species introduced new blood strains to those deeply affected. The species of Draco were an experiment based on a bacteria or living organism of a dissatisfied pool of life, of life-giving primordial liquids. The liquids had been the elixir of life, but was introduced by a contaminant, and thus created new breeds of less desirable species, reflecting odd anomalies and contrary dispositions. You refer to them as monster. The bird beings, resembling the partridges, assembled them for minion purposes and aligned them into various hosts of distractions and chaos to allow the further domination of this bird species. To eliminate the Draco species would be of no circumstance to any positive living species. They were not the original thought or intent in any reality other than a malevolent purpose of existence. Have no regrets in their disappearance. All will reap the benefit. Many new and introduced species that were not intended to be present on your planet will also disappear in time. They are subspecies and experiments for agendas. As the contrary species will be brought to recognition of their intent, so shall their minions dissolve into time and memory. Now, on to the issue of Jacques. I must admit I had fault with Jacques at first when he entered the gate of knowing and began to search the many timelines and revolutions of humanity. He came in as a highly informed observer and left each lifetime as a mesmerized and disillusioned mind-controlled individual. I have been working with him to heal and understand what has happened. The first part is the removal of the contamination and the undesirable species that carried it. The second is to free all humanity and other civilizations from the Draco species. Jacques was a walk-in as director Roger Vadim of the movie Barbarella, where he had relations with many females from Revolution 1 and those from the Maximum Rufus, as well as one of your surrogates. He later returned and walked in as Hugh Hefner and Howard Hughes, where he discovered the toxin in his system from the Dracos. Of course, there is so much more.
Recently, Jacques said something to me, something in French.
Tu rends la vie, you give your life back, or tu le rends vivant, keep it alive again. It is time for the change in all of us. I have found the remedy, but you are only 3/4 finished with the problem with the Dracos. Be strong and work together, both you and my ancestor.
I told him I would follow through for all of us and complete the task.
That is good. I'm glad to hear you have taken him seriously. I was concerned there would be some discord if you remembered your connection to him. I told him to find you, not to mate with you, or even more so, not to marry you. Anyhow, the darkness, illusion, and mind control elements in your society was much more than he was able to control. I will say he did try to resolve many of these things and injuries he had accumulated and worked through by developing the emotional releasing techniques and teachings of the Sedona method. He was the walk-in of Lester Levinson.
Oh, I see. So he sent my friend Dr. T, a 90-year-old teacher of stress release and hypnosis practitioner. He sent that person to me. We did a lot of work together. It's amazing how all these things tie in together. It was extremely helpful for me to release the emotions and held me back or made me feel stuck in so many ways. All right, I'm glad for Jacques' attempt to correct the issue and to find the answers. So many who had suffered from contamination of the Dracos as well as traumas occurred by the Maximus rufus and other species.
I'm happy to hear you see it that way. Be at peace, Suma. So much healing is ahead for all of you. All right, so that's quite personal to your life experience, yeah.
It is, but it also
for
affects
you.
everyone. It has to do with the Dracos, and I remember getting hit by the venom of the Dracos, and they do this spitting type of thing, and others have talked about it as well. It throws you off guard. You don't know what it is, but apparently it affects the auric field. And recently, when Jacques came through, and we had a discussion about it, and there was another individual that was involved too, and they were trying to get me and this other person to be freed of the Dracos, because apparently the Dracos, when they are angry at someone, they don't let it go. I mean, it's like that whole like horror flick thing where, you see that, they're missing their arms and their legs and they're still coming after you, or a RoboCop, and they just keep coming regardless. And so, we were trying to resolve, cause I guess Jacques was concerned that it was going to be a bigger issue later on, but, the contamination part, concerned me, when I realized it. So that's something that needs to be healed, and it can't be healed if I'm going to be exposed to it again. So, but he, comforted me and said, it's not contagious, but a lot of other people have been affected by the Draco venom. They're not aware of it probably. It may have some health issues.
So this could be something like, might come out as like a Lyme's disease or an ME or something like that.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it comes out in different ways, I suppose. But, yeah, I mean, some people have a lot of, they're tired or whatever, And, one of the things is, I mean, I mentioned some famous people here who he was. I mean, Hugh Hefner, Howard Hughes, and he's still here experimenting and trying to figure things out, but, Howard Hughes had this big thing with bacterias and contamination. I think at that point he had a realization that he was exposed, and that even though he was a time traveler, it was going to affect him because it affects the etheric body, and not just the physical body, because a walk-in can remove themselves from the physical body, but not, the etheric is affecting their soul aspect. So, that's when it became an issue. And this is when I get a little nervous because I'm mentioning famous people, and I'm like, all right, I don't want to have it out with anybody's relative, but a walk-in is a walk-in, and but I thought it was very redeeming knowing about Lester Levinson, and it kind of ties it all together. About the Sedona method, those of you that know about the Sedona method, his story is that he changed everything in his life within a couple of months by using this process, and that was the emotional release that you talked about in the beginning. So, working and removing extremes in your emotional state, whether any kind of worry, fear, anger, and then on the counterpart, not getting too high and too elevated in happiness where it's not realistic either, and kind of telling people to create a balance somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, moderation in all things.
Yeah. So that's where we go with John, and now we're going down to Meetis.
Hello, flower. Tell me, my love, when does it ever end? If we could hold all knowledge and truth in a nutshell, would it benefit us? Or would we be dissatisfied with the answers? I understand the wisdom of experience. I understand the wisdom of knowing that all of our experiences are unique. We're not here to live other people's reality. We are here to live our own reality. We are here to collect data from the sun, mysteries from the moon, and warmth from the earth. If our bare feet don't touch the ground, we'll never know our true connection as the earth reflects back to us who we are. I was never one for staying inside too long. I like the open air. I like walking for miles and traversing the countryside. I like my little cups of tea and dear friends that share it with me. I like the gatherings and the warm blast of fire at night and a warm friend beside me to keep me warm inside. We are as you are, but we are not you, and you are not like others. But we share many things in common, and none of us need to have a fate of lacking any of these things. I see Andronicus was talking to you. Many think it's silly that I call you flower. They don't fully understand and appreciate the simple things of nature. They seem to want complexities that their mind concocts. The future reveals how all the obvious questions and answers that mankind has been searching for have always been in plain sight. But then again, many don't listen, and for them, I'll sing a song instead. Somehow the lyrics and song helps them to better understand. Tra-la-la, I say. Tweedle-dee-da, I say. Fa-fa-fa, a little of this, a little of that. A short little kiss and part of my hat. Silly rhymes cheer the heart and open the minds of the sorrowful. Sing me a song, minstrels, jingle the bells, strum the harps, bang on the harpsichord and beat the drums. Stomp your feet and clap your hands, together we'll take back our lands. Primus, are you with me? You know how to tether the strings together. Vocals now, minstrel. Primus, do you remember? You are one of the greatest minstrels around. Quite a dandy one at that. I don't feel dandy today. Anyway. Yes, good old heart from A.
He also says, never underestimate a bard, I say. Their words are mightier than a sword in battle.
Rolling Stones today.
The surface water no more. It's time to open a new door. You can now look and then look down. The metallurgic broken crown.
Hang on, I've realised realise I'm overdriving it.
Kick open the crater. Don't be tricked by the satyr. There are many illusions behind those doors. They have been hiding behind the metal floors. Skip through the rings and the broken things, and be free of those powers once more. Rev 1 chose not to do it. Rev 2 just broke through it. And I left before they knew it. Singing songs by the portal. This is when you all knew it. Twice dead my love, but still alive. Much like you flower, I still survive. La la la, we'll all survive. We'll all survive.
Yeah, rock and roll. Anyway.
Yeah, that was good. It's a rock and roll.
Yeah, lots of genres. I had a guy on my show last night who described the very sound effect that I have. I just want to share this one for you. He was talking about a race of beings, and they left him with evidence of their existence by slicing off parts of their bodies, which were tentacles. And I actually have a tentacle flop down. This is and he said it sounds just like this. I'll just have one again. The sound of a tentacle flopping down. There we go. I don't know how I could work that one into the narrative, but I think we better take a break.
That was good. Interesting way. Well, we're gonna play as a Tom Petty. Don't come around here no more. I just put it back in chat for you.
Oh, did you? Right.
Yeah, and
this one's I've got.
We have Vikings here waiting for us, so we're gonna do Rings of Fire after that.
Okay.
By Johnny Cash.
I got You Got Lucky. Can I put that on?
You want to do the three of them?
I got Mary Jane's Last Dance and You Got Lucky so far, so
I put
okay.
Don't Come Around Here No More in the chat as well.
All right. Well, I'll put that on next.
I know.
Right. Oh, there we go. We're back on the air. Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the flat universe theory.
We had a little discussion about. I saw the Dyson sphere, and then I saw a flat Earth, but it wasn't inside of our Earth. I saw a flat Earth biosphere, away from our planet, but near our planet. And what came to me was that was a place where they were going to jump some of the people that believed in the rapture, and which is probably disturbing to everybody right now. I'm sorry, but I saw that thing and I asked, what the deal was with that. I don't know who is running it or what's the purpose of it, but I don't even know if I should be saying it on air, but people take what I say with a grain of salt anyhow. So I don't know if everybody believes me, but if they believed all the stuff that I saw, they'd be a lot more nervous when these things come up. But usually we're protected, that we see it, catch it, and then remove it. But that whole agenda of the rapture and all that stuff, some group is promoting it, and I don't know if it's part of an abduction thing. But anyhow, we have Viking here today.
Should we have a quick meanwhile?
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
On you go, Jess.
Yeah, meanwhile, we have Viking here, and I just want to say hello to Viking, and I just want you to introduce you to share your story today. You had something happen, and be open and free to say whatever you want to say.
Hello, Jessica. Hello, JP. This is the Viking.
Hi.
Just quickly on those biospheres, Tolek is really into the biospheres, and he has a whole layout on his website, how they look, how they're laid out, all the floors, which ones are which. It's supposed to be 7 in total surrounding our planet at this point in time, and I guess he's a Androniman. I guess they're from that sector.
Yeah, Andromedan. Yeah, and he's a good guy. I like Tolek, and I think there's many that have biospheres, and that's not the one that I'm talking about. But that's good to point out. Yeah,
I know his soul group has 7. They're pretty cool. I mean, they're huge, with multiple layers and different decks, and there's even gardens and parks and cities and lakes, and I mean they're immense, man. They're like a small planet. So anyway, you didn't play the Ring of Fire, but I'll tell you, man.
We're gonna play it. We're gonna play it for you. So okay. Go ahead and talk and share your story, and then we'll play it. All right.
I don't know. Go. Shall I play it now?
Story. No, let him tell the story.
All right, tell the story.
Play it now, Viking.
Right. Yeah, let's get into the theme, man.
Okay.
Okay.
And I am surrounded by fire as we speak. Last night I was on Keith AZ Live. By the way, he was singing your praises, JP, for the intro that you did for his show. He's very happy about that.
Oh, bless you. I just did a few words, and it was just like live, and he liked it. So bless his heart. He's a very, very sweet man. Very sweet.
And he's a music man too. He appreciates it.
So I come off of his show, and I'm about 11 o'clock at night, and I have this huge redwood tree out in front of my house where it would take 3 of me to circle it. I mean, it's huge. And it's alive with about 60-mile-an-hour winds, and I walk outside and I can smell the smoke. But I had no idea at the time that the hills were on fire. And I'm not talking about just the hills, but I mean all over this county. I'm up in Northern California in Sonoma County. And it is just raging. I mean, we started out in Tubbs Lane up in Calistoga, and the north wind was blowing. Of course, the north wind is the winds of change. And I thought to myself, this would be horrific if there was a fire. And of course, there was a fire. And it blew down a canyon, of course, between 60 and 80 miles an hour, this firestorm, and it hit northern Santa Rosa, and then it blew south along Highway 101 and then crossed over into an industrial section where it proceeded to burn up the industrial parks, McDonald's, Trader Joe's, Applebee's, the hospitals, trailer parks, subdivisions. We're talking about 40, 60 structures at a time. And not just one house, the entire subdivision on fire. This was zero containment. Zero containment. It's out of control. It jumped over, again, industrial parks, strip malls, along the highway. Of course, on the highway you always have these food establishments, and hotels were ablaze. Just an absolute firestorm. And then it swept over into up into this other industrial park where I had my warehouse. Now I'm not sure whether it's burned to the ground, but the entire area was evacuated. 20,000 people were evacuated. Hundreds of homes were burnt, and we're talking about subdivisions where the entire subdivision was ablaze, with propane tanks exploding and bullets taken off. And I mean, it was horrendous, and the entire skies is filled with smoke. I woke up this morning to a black sky, and my yard, which I'm about 15 miles away, was covered with ash, and not just ash, but chunks of cardboard, charred cardboard and paper, and I'm listening all night long to there's a app called 50 Radio. My daughter turned me on to. It's like $4, and you buy that, and you plug in your geographic area. It gives you options for local 50 fire, police response, and you can listen to the entire chatter. And I was up till 4 o'clock monitoring this chatter. They said nothing about these subdivisions going up. They're responding to single structure fires, and I mean rescues here and rescues there, and And we had ambulances and, fire, trucks from about 7 counties here trying to salvage this fire. Kaiser Hospital was surrounded by flames. Our music center went up in flames. Schools went up in flames.
USDA.
This is huge. And again, I probably lost my warehouse. I had 8,000 square foot warehouse where I house all my, clothing, for my businesses. So, is it insured? I don't know if it's insured. It's insured, but I'm not sure to what degree. It all has to, kind of, pan out. But what a surreal experience. Right now I look out and there's still ash floating around the sky, and I haven't seen the sun all day. And it's not just that one area. There's like 23 to 25 fires, strung out around Northern California, and there's speculation that it's a conspiracy. But also last night, there's a meteor that broke up over Northern California. It was seen in San Francisco to Fresno. And it broke up into fireball. The fireball broke up into 1,000 fireballs, and that could have been what seeded these fires, because they've all happened at once. This is really, absolutely insane. It is apocalyptic, surreal. I feel like I'm in, again, a war zone. It's just so strange. The air is kind of, it's like everything's stopped in time. And, it's just absolutely, it's prophetic in the degree and the damage and the displacement and we're talking about a city here, an urban city of I think there's 80,000 people in Santa Rosa. The whole northern tip of it, which is all industrial and kind of coming off the freeway to restaurants and hotels, is gone. There's like a 3 mile path where this fire was driven by the north wind. Again, up to 60 to 80 mile an hour winds just kind of drove this thing. They could not contain it, zero containment, and it's basically still burning itself out.
Viking, I didn't know about all of that stuff happening. So you said that it all broke. This fire just came down from the sky, essentially. Is it?
No, the fire came down from. It started up in what they call Calistoga and Tubbs Lane, and it kind of came down this canyon. It came down. When you hit a canyon, you create a windstorm, like a wind tunnel. It was already 60 to 80 miles an hour. And so once it hit this canyon on March West Springs Road, it just was like nothing stopping it. It was a firestorm just blowing down the canyon, into northern Santa Rosa on Highway 101 and anything in its path. There are homes all up and down that canyon. They're all gone. There was a school. It's gone. My daughter's aunt and uncle's house is gone. It was in the subdivision right at the base of Mark West Springs Road, all the way to the freeway. Then it followed. Again, the wind was blowing it south another 10 miles, probably about 4 miles into Santa Rosa, and then it crossed over the freeway and just did major damage. But speculation is it might have been seeded from this meteor that broke up, because we're right now in the Orion. It's the tail of Halley's Comet that we're passing through. And the next 3 nights are going to be absolutely spectacular meteor showers in the sky. And this thing is coming down is the size of they say it's the size of a car that actually broke up, or a boulder or something. Huge. It was streaking the sky. It looked like a rocket actually breaking up. So what I'm saying is it a meteor? Is it a rocket? I'm not sure what the hell, but it broke up into 1,000 fireballs. And, that close and that proximity, who knows if that might have been what was seeding all these fires around Northern California. I think you're all the way down as far as Bakersfield, as far north as Humboldt. They're all over the state of California right now. They seem to all have happened at once. Like all of a sudden, boom, we have fires, Of course, a lot of the fires were spawned from, main fires went in the spark and the wind, and they, of course, broadcasted microfires all over the county as well. But I literally had fires surrounding my house.
Wow. Viking, a lot of people were concerned about the hurricanes, and while the hurricanes were going on, there were fires on the West Coast. And I told people, I said, we really need to set out an intention to help these people on both sides of the U.S. Having problems, one by water, one by fire. And, the fires have to stop. I mean, there are people who believe that these were seeded. There were chemicals that are actually seen on the ground. People have had them analyzed, and they were to further create fires. But I have no proof of that. I know that some people say that they do, and since I'm not an authority, I won't say any more other than to suggest that if you do some research, maybe there's some proof available to show it. But I will say that there has been a problem. It seems very unnatural. And at one point during the time of the hurricanes, you could see the whole West Coast going all the way up, having issues with fire. And hardly anyone talked about it. I mean, it was almost like it started to become common. And there are people that have had respiratory issues, and God knows the loss of their homes and some other problems. And it's all very, very serious. And even if you're not hit by the fire, then just the air quality has to be damaging and difficult. So I can't imagine, the feeling that, like any other place, you'd say, well, there's a fire, but you can get, like, the fire department to come and help put it out. But this is a grand scale. This is huge. And you guys you don't get enough rain. There's not much to protect you out there. And then on top of that, add other natural elements happening as well, as well as the winds taking it in all different directions without the manpower to control it.
Well, yes, it definitely is epic. And, California does not receive rain from, I don't know if many people might not know this, but we are an arid state. There's no rain from May till about the end of October. And so our hills turn bright, brown with all the grasses dry out. And we're talking about grasses that are 18 inches to 2 feet high, they're actually eastern grasses they came across with the wagon trains. They were chinked in the hubs of the wheels. And these grasses basically took over the natural fauna of California, and they basically dry out, because our natural fauna does not drought, our natural grasses, but all of our hills are just covered with this golden array, and this is what catches fire. This is what does the damage. And it's like they said, it will travel, the fire will travel as fast as the wind will blow. And it's just absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it is. But, and sorry, I'm so no. I mean, I know that, like you said, I hate to hear that this happened to you, and sending, asking that the universe help to provide whatever you need regarding your business, and blessing to you and your family.
Yeah, it's not so much, I'm my business and my warehouse, that's just it's all material objects. We're talking about, I'm not sure how many people did not make it out. They haven't given any kind of a death count. They haven't given any kind of a, I mean, I'm looking at these pictures. If you go to Santa Rosa, fire on YouTube, you'll see the firestorms that were created. I mean, absolutely, the entire neighborhood is on fire at one time. I mean, it's not just one house burning, but it is epic. I mean, total loss. And where are 20,000 people going to go? How do you rebuild a neighborhood, or how do you rebuild the northern section of a town of this magnitude? It's just mind-boggling. We're all in shock. My daughter's kind of hibernating. She doesn't want to, I mean, we're all completely have no idea what to expect at this point in time. But I want to go into as far as it being, as you mentioned, it's, fires are always cleansing. They, as hard as they are, we gotta be thankful that, that it didn't take, our loss of life here, at least in my sector, that people were evacuated. I mean, it is a purification, in the deck, it's referred to the throw deck as the tower. It's usually it's a preamble for, the universe coming in and striking and taking what needs to be assessed that you're unwilling to let go of. And, it also is a marker for, completely, again, winds of change, completely new beginnings through devastation. So it's kind of like the phoenix again, the phoenix rising out of the fires is very apropos here. I mean, this is, it always brings sadness and you have to, go through your sorrow, but there's always opportunity, to move forward into a brand new realm of, manifestation here. And I think that's what's happening here on a global level. We are going into this new paradigm of manifestation. We are going into this new, these new bands of energy waves that are, bringing us to a new point of awareness. And either you're gonna fall prey to these situations or you're gonna be able to work them into your favor and be able to, somehow heal and find, sanctity and just move forward in a very, prominent, stance here. I'm not at all attached, I'm not at all attached to what happened as far as the pain and suffering that the people are experiencing. But, we have to somehow realize that this is the calm before the storm. Just across the world, we're all going to be going through some degree of reunification, of purging, of surrendering on some level. Hopefully it's not as drastic as this. And we've talked before how we would love this new transition into this new paradigm to be as seamless as possible. But here we are in these little microcosms of what would be called, disasters, and how do we cope? I mean, this happened overnight. This was not like, here comes the fire. You had 10 minutes to leave, to grab what you can and leave your house. 10 minutes.
Wow.
Or 5 minutes, or possibly people are actually running for their lives. What do you grab? Your dog or cat, or that's about it. People are running out because it was at nighttime. They're in their pajamas or they're half naked. I mean, nothing. I mean, cars and trucks are just piled up in ash and rubble. They couldn't even. I mean, you couldn't even find your key to get to your car. It's like that's how fast this was. So I mean,
wow, that's horrifying.
I know. How can you prepare yourself? I mean, this is like, again, all these little things that are happening here are wake up calls to what could or may happen. I mean, this is why people have bug out bags and they're always talking about what could be an earthquake, it could be a volcano. I mean, they're all talking about now how Yellowstone's getting 300 or 400 earthquakes a day. The New Madras Fault, parts of the Mississippi, the water is disappearing. It's gone. It's going into these caverns, and this is like, this stuff is happening. Gaia Chitaya, or Tierra Crista, however you want to see her, is definitely going through the metamorphosis here. We are all going through change. We are all going through changes on all levels. Body, mind, spirit, the planets, everything is going through a metamorphosis and transition. Everything. Life as we know it will be completely different and completely, to just the farthest we can possibly imagine. It's out of the realm of perception where we are going in the next 6 to 12 months on this planet. Now, I'm not talking about natural disaster. I'm just talking about perceptual awareness on the spectral analysis of holographic reality that we are projecting and manifesting is coming to an end. You know, you're talking about these biospheres being stations for the just call it the revenant or the rapture. You know, yeah. I'm not sure if it's going to get to that degree, but they are saying that there is going to be definitely a split in humanity because not everybody's going to make it. Best to like completely make sure your house is in order. You basically are tying up loose ends emotionally, tying up loose ends physically, tying up loose ends economically, socially, whatever it is. You know, adapt a Zen aspect and Zen attitude where you get down to the bare necessities of who you are, what you're doing, and put your affairs in order. In other words, clean your house, you know, get down to where, you know, nothing is here holding you back. Nothing is holding you back from this Phoenix Rising, this ascension process, this awakening, this surrendering, because make no mistakes, we are in the thick of it. And Jessica and I and JP and everybody on Will Spirit has been saying this for months, years. We are in the thick of it. This is it. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is curtain call. It's the clarion call. We are in the thick of it. So, you know, be prepared for anything and everything. You know, the disclosures, financial bubbles breaking, you know, times stock market, housing market, car market, you know, jobs. I mean, the economy, world economy. Look at Puerto Rico. I mean, down to nothing and $20 billion in debt and no infrastructure at all. Gone. You know, it's like anything could happen. This is a wild card. Absolute wild card. You can't expect there to be a Thanksgiving or Christmas. If one comes along, enjoy it, celebrate it, but yeah, there's no expectations here. You can't hold on to any prism of reality. It's all going to be scrutinized. It's all going to undergo a metamorphosis. It's all going to go through a change beyond our perception. And I've said this so many times. You spoke earlier in the show about repeating yourself. I repeat myself all the time because I'm drilling it in. I'm a drill sergeant here. We are boots on the ground. It's our responsibility to maintain our sovereign, our authentic self, our true essence, our morals, our integrity, our free will here is to choose that we all are here together as one on this planet. You know, we are co-creating our future, but we have to be responsible for ourselves first. Then we can reach out and share and help and support others. You can't change. You can't make anybody do anything. You know, some people are not going to want your help. They're going to want to stay in 3D. So be it. It's really important not to worry about hurting people's feelings or going against the status quo, or you're going to create trouble in your family or friends. Who cares? You're number one, and through your efforts and your strength and courage and your decisions of being a free radical here, you will influence people around you. They will come around if they have half a brain. You know, if they have half an insight, they'll start to understand. If not, you're wasting your time. This is who they are. This is where they are, and you're actually validating them, trying to get them on board. You know, they're more apt to pull you in to their chaos and their suffering than you pull them out, because that's what they live for. Everybody in this planet is suffering from PTSD. Everybody. But it's not our responsibility to heal everybody's PTSD. And we have to get through our own perspective of spectral analysis on where we are on our timelines, so we don't get caught up in the chaos. We don't get caught up in the false flags. We don't get caught up in family drama. We don't get caught up in socio-political strife. We stand back and without judgment or articulation or what would you say, reaction. You have to be in that place of centered being, centeredness, centered hearts. Find your center, find your composure. Yes.
Now, Viking, this type of stuff, I mean, throughout history, we've had tragedies, and someone just reminded me in the chat room about Pompeii. And, at any given time, something can happen anywhere. I mean, it's just a part of the history, but I don't know if I agree that this is apocalyptic, but if you're experiencing it, it probably feels that way. And, because I think it could be apocalyptic any time. No, I'm not saying that you said that. I'm just kind of, saying that to the people because I feel a sense of nervousness that some people are feeling right now. And, we had a universal flood at one time where there was a revolution of humanity, and then they got wiped out, and then another revolution started, which you've talked about on the show. But there has been incidences like this, and even like the parallels with Leonard Crumb starting fires in these parallel worlds, which someone else brought up in the chat, which is reminiscent to what you're experiencing right now. And so we want to say that, at any given moment, what you're saying is very, very truthful, is that at any given moment, anyone can be in a crisis situation, and you just need to know that you're connected to the divine source and be at peace wherever you're at and be happy. And like you said, everything else, they're objects and they're things. But life has value, and we all have purpose here. And I'm grateful that you're safe, and your family's safe, and hopefully your friends and all those many workers that you have. I hope so as well.
Well,
we're all concerned for you.
Yeah, I'm not saying in my little rant there, I wasn't saying that we're going down an apocalyptic event. I believe that it will be as seamless as possible, but it really depends, and as we've oftentimes shared, Jessica, it depends on how you are visualizing or manifesting your fate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't saying that, but I am bringing it up to the people because there's a sense of nervousness, so we can understand the term and then recognize that, I've been, like I said, that whatever's been going on in California and all the way up the coast, all the way up through the U.S. on the West Coast is fires, and it seems unnatural to me. I've not seen that before in history. I mean, I could be corrected, but from my memory of anything like this, I've never seen this before.
I was born and raised here, and this has been the past 3 years has been just off the charts. And again, you can drop into conspiracy and you can go wherever you want with it. But again, my point here, if you're nervous, we can't control our fate. We can control our destiny through our will to some degree. But just as I said, I've said this almost on every one of our shows, best be prepared. Take a step back and just, what is it going to take, man? If you have to leave your house in five minutes, it's just good to be prepared. Do you have, again, just your affairs in order, just across the board, because again, whether it's apocalyptic or it's an energy shift or timeline revocation, whatever it is, we still, again, it's like, I just feel so many people out there are still in this unconscious slumber that we're going to be saved by the galactics and they can, start buying, Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas stuff, It's absolutely ludicrous. It's insane to even think that. You got your thinking and start to just understand that if it comes along, fine, you can celebrate life, but it's beyond our planning stage or bed timing. It's just beyond our timelines at this point. I mean, everything is ramping up. The energies from our galactic center expressed through our sun Helios is showering our planet. The Schumann resonance is triple digit. I mean, we are in this compression of energetic, awakening. It's all I can express it. It's an awakening, an energetic awakening where our frequencies are being pushed to new levels, which is causing us to either shrink or expand. You're going to shrink or you're going to expand, and it's beyond. Again, this has never been happened before in galactic history. Never has it happened before. They're all watching us to see how we're going to handle this. You know,
it's forcing something to happen. It's forcing something within us, and the people that are actually in these pivotal points that are feeling natural calamities of this scale. It has to change their life in some way, where they're revisiting and going inward and trying to assess what is truly important, and that's what it's all about. And that could be the conduit that changes and shifts us into this upper reality that we've been pursuing, the higher dimensions, pushing things into the higher dimensional field by awakening us through these challenges. What do you think?
So what I'm seeing here is that in all situations, it's breaking down timelines to a point of the present moment. Even in these fires, people are not thinking about Christmas. They're not thinking about their bills. They're not thinking about any kind of trauma. They're in the moment. In this case, the survival. But this, the galactics are showing us that the 4 and 5D actually is. It's coming from the point of now, coming from the point of your heart node and your soul mind. You know, your head mind negotiates life, but your soul mind brings in your intuition and your imagination and your gifts. The heart mind, you know, is there to express your passion and love. But it all boils down to being in the present moment of expression, what we call 0 point or non-time or infinity, where life from this point of perspective is a projection of who you are. You're not out there trying to create anything on these false timelines, but you are projecting and being in the moment. So when anything happens, you'll be available to its answer. You'll be available to what's needed to be done. It's every single situation that we've talked about, Jessica, since in the past hour, brings us down to a point of 0 point or non-time in our decision making and in our perspective of who we are, in these, actually the singularity of these timelines, which are there to keep us engaged in these holographic projections of illusion and delusion.
So while you're out there surrounded by this ring of fire, and you're still holding strong, and we can learn from this. We can learn that your attitude is transcending the situation as it stands, and so I just want to get everyone unified in this one thought, is that we can send out divine protection and love and assistance to all those that are struggling right now, all up and down the West Coast, and those that are in a tragic situation, and those that are in borderline about to be in that situation. And we just send some rain, something that quenches the fire and helps people to feel the love of the divine consciousness. And so let's all send that, all unified in thought, and let's just take like 1 minute to send that as a group. It's so much more powerful than just one person doing it. So as a group, let's all send that out to everyone over there on the West Coast, and to you and your family, Viking. So it's just like a moment of silence. And asking whatever energy there is that's causing that cleansing to occur through fire, we're going to ask that it's subdued, and that it fulfills its purpose in helping others without harming anyone else through the loss of a home and so forth. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you for having me on. We do have a Galactic Interstellar Council meeting this Thursday. We're going to be going into the theme of it's going to be popping these bubbles of illusion and delusion and fear, trying to and reconstructing these fragmented timelines into a singularity. As I said, I think this is primarily what's happening here. It's forcing us to be real, to be centered, to be focused, and again, without judgment or expectation, I think is key here. As I said, this is very surreal. I'm almost out of body, what's taking place.
Yeah.
You can see how the animals are reacting, because I feel the same way, man. It's like, this is not real, this is like you're just in a, you're just on point, wondering what's going to happen next,
I agree. And everything is all unified and working together, and we know that our souls are transcendent, that they're here, they have a purpose, everything's, that we're here to support one another. We're all connected. And, nothing's more powerful than the thought of love and watching over our brothers and sisters out there. So, we just want to make sure that everything's well, and I appreciate your candid, honest talk always, Viking. It's always from the heart and from your truth. And I appreciate your show, the Interstellar Galactic Council, because it allows the galactics to come through and speak and to share their perspective and insight. But there's always some really good pieces of information that you can walk away with and use it in everyday life. So it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the show on Thursday.
It's funny because we've been at it for over a year on the council, and it came to me as an insight. I was actually told to put the council together, and you're one of the first persons I talked to you about the idea. I don't really look at it as my show. I truly believe it is a galactic interstellar council on this planet, and we are representing humanity as far as we are boots on the ground. We are, it's very integral into the process of what's happening here, but on an individual basis. There are white hats and people out in the upper echelon changing the government and changing the political structure. But it takes us in solidarity to really make this manifest as individuals. And so the council, to me, is a real bona fide council of galactic import and terrestrial unification. And again, not my show, it's our show, it's our council, and I figure I see you very much a part of the show as I'm a part of the show. As part of the council, along with Chris and Conrad and all of our guests. We are there to make it happen, to be able to be a conduit of information, knowledge, and a new understanding as we, again, we're in uncharted territories, and we're here to help bridge this information.
And that's what we're doing. We're becoming the bridge and the conduit for the information to come through, and at the end of the day, I feel the same thing. It's, if we say this is the Andronicus show, because it's not my information. It's information that's coming through, and all the different beings that are connecting. So I just other than the fact that you remain open and you allow it to come together in where you understand that we're all here for a purpose and everyone has value, then there's no ego. We appreciate each person that is a part of this whole group, and understand that everyone's doing their part, and even the people on the chat who are very present here as contributing the energy and the ideas and contributing the questions that invigorate, what direction the information is flowing through. So it's all very important.
Well, thanks again. I really feel we all make it happen, and we're all here as a family and a wolf pack, and I'm really proud to be part of it. Thank you, Jessica.
And many blessings to you, Viking, and may there be a wonderful large wall that protects everyone out there from the fires. And the fires might come by but miss everything, and until they dissolve.